Skibidi!
Hello, people. Today we are going to talk about the Ouya. Yeah,
Why they failed to launch?
okay. Okay. So
Bro.
first of all, Hugo, which was like the main idea of the Ouya.
I don't know. Sorry. The first idea of the Ouya was to try to let independent creator of games
Developers.
publish their games, their demo of the games to this new console, so they could be, how do you say it, pagado? Paid.
Ajá. So
Yeah.
it was for mostly for independent like developers to start to making games without necessarily looking for a publisher, I think. So they posted it on Kickstarter, right?
Yeah. Okay. So the Kickstarter publication recorded raised over $8.5 million, becoming one of the biggest crowdfunding campaigns at that time.
So I mean, mainly the project wasn't like that big. So the budget they originally like programmed for the Ouya was about $10,000. Not that much. It wasn't that much. So I think it would have been like better if they had not such a big budget, mostly because people hyped a lot with a little project that had a $8 million budget. Mostly because sometimes most of the times what happens is that like people give an interesting idea that could work, but they
Solo
don't
pongo
have
el bendito tocino, Gregor.
the money. So not much has been revealed about the Ouya's development, right? So what for the interviews? After they were donated, I think they didn't actually reveal much about the project.
So when they did the interviews, what surprised most the people was that the CEO wasn't actually capable of telling how much games will the actual Ouya come out with. As well as with that, we must mention that I am not cooking while mentioning that.
Yeah.
Moving that aside, the
Está
interviews
haciendo un
were
crimen de guerra en la cocina.
the interviews went all correctly wrong because because of the CEO being too dumb. We must mention that
Like
they
you.
didn't give further information about the Ouya. The
Mostly what happened in the interviews, even though it didn't like, even though what happened in interviews didn't like affect the hype that people had for the Ouya. I mean, they started like suspecting a little about the quality of the product and how it was going to be, mostly because the CEO showed to be not quite aware of what was happening in the world of technology.
And about the development and hardware, the developers received early prototypes to start making games, and
Con razón tuve todo tu teléfono.
and at first it was designed as a really small console in a cube shape, integrating an NVIDIA Tegra 3 quad core, 1 GB of RAM, 8 gigs of
Ese está crudo, Gregor.
storage, and so it wasn't that powerful because that time at the time it was launched, the Tegra 3 processor wasn't the
Okay.
The
wasn't good
best.
enough, I think.
Most of the components that
Was
they Ouya had were like for cell phones.
outdated.
As well as they were actually outdated.
Yep.
I mean,
As soon as it got released, actually Nvidia got a new brand series of GPUs, while that Ouya used the Nvidia optical CDM, which is a really old graphics card and useless
Yeah.
nowadays. That can't even run Doom.
I mean, the main problem was that
No.
even though they like promoted it as some kind of like table cell phone, they should have like tried at least to develop their own components. Mostly because uh, like the technology, cell phones technology advances like really quick, and it's really easy to end up being obsolete in terms of just months. So when they had released the console, most of the components weren't, enough for the competence in cell phone terms.
Yeah.
Then there was the controller. Do you remember that they say about the touchpad in the
Uh-huh.
control
Uh,
I
on
mean, the
PlayStation? Already have it.
I mean, that was an quite smart idea to add the touchpad, mostly because even though PlayStation did it, it kind of makes more sense to add that touchpad on a console that it's a little bit more as like a phone. Mostly because when you're using a PlayStation 4, the touchpad isn't like,
useful.
I mean, it's mostly just another button for the console. Like when you're playing any game, it's mostly just another button, and it doesn't actually like help on the menu or something. So
Yeah,
the
you can.
touchpad is kind of useless.
Yeah, you can perfectly play without using it. So
Uh-huh.
yeah. Um, and about the controller, it
Y el tocino,
wasn't the
Gregory.
best because it had a cheap quality build. So sometimes, for example, the buttons got stuck under the faceplate.
Gregory,
But
el
what I
tocino
think
se
it
te va a
was
quemar.
kind of creative, it was that um the bottoms had the name Ouya. Well, the four bottoms,
Mm.
like if you can see, it is Ouya.
And I mean, yeah, right. The controller's quality was really bad. It felt like I once like saw
Ahí está rico.
Ouya's controller. A friend of mine had it, and the control like it felt cheap. It felt like plastic. Like
Yeah, yeah.
so, yeah, the
Feels like
controller
a
was
magic.
really bad. Also, I mean, taking away all of what would be the physical stuff of the Ouya, the games weren't that big. I mean, when after making some research, the most sold ever Ouya game ever
Yeah.
sold 7,000 copies.
7,000.
Like
Only 7,000.
yeah, it was nothing.
Plus, the actual weight on the console of each game was for about 40 gigabytes, which nowadays is almost nothing. But the capability and sustainability of the Ouya wasn't even capable of holding 10, which is so sad.
Okay, so I mean, yeah, even the console wasn't
Yeah, yeah.
prepared for the games it was supposed to run. And I mean, one of the worst mistakes they made after launching is that they were offering this like special trade for people who donated a certain amount of money. But when the Ouya was released, most of what they had promised, I mean, they weren't making their promises true. They said
Ah,
like it had an Ouya before everyone or an special edition console and stuff, but they didn't. I mean, they did it like with months of delay or just didn't do it at all.
and what I saw, it was just the color. I think so. The standard maybe it was like gray color by the but if you donate more,
It was
you
like
you
gold,
got
something
yeah
like gold
gold.
and silver. However, I mean, a few people got that.
Ah,
I mean, it
with your
was.
name.
You could have a
With
customer
your
with
name
your name.
is
I mean,
script.
the thing is that even if you donated, I mean, most people who donated for that special console didn't get the what they paid for. And I mean, it wasn't even like half of the people. It was most of people who donated that didn't have their part of the
Plus,
deal.
the ones who didn't actually pre-ordered got their Ouya faster than the other ones who
Yeah,
actually
they
pre-bought it.
first. In my opinion, that should be annoying to pay more of the average and get it delayed.
Buying on Timu.
Yeah,
Okay, okay, so what they launched? Oh, they announced what was it? The
Perdón, perdón.
okay, so they what they did was announce another console which was supposed to be like better, but they announced it the day the like the main one was launched, and that makes nonsense because if you announce that you will launch you will launch uh, a better product in within a wait of months, then why would you buy the one that is already on the market? It makes like no sense at all. You are going to bend the frying pan. You have to wait for it to go cold. Boy, what are you doing?
He's doing conflicts.
Okay. So then, I mean, even though I think the Ouya was the better Ouya didn't have much like improvements. I mean, the new one, the main thing that the new one offered was like a new controller. That even though it wasn't like that bad as the old one, it was still like. I mean, it didn't have like really critical development errors, but it was still very annoying to use, and it still felt cheap, like really cheap. And I mean, stuff like the touchpad or stuff that I mean, it kind of were good, but didn't, like didn't end up blending with the concept. It didn't actually work really well.
And then the buttons.
Yeah.
The buttons stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, like those several problems, but severe problems, but the main ones of that the original design had, they didn't solve it. And I mean, even if like, you trying willing to use it, it's it's hard because like it looks ugly, like really ugly.
Gregory el PC.
MVP, no NPC. Oh, sí, Gregory. Oh, sí.
I remember they released like a paying plan or paying project for independent developers in which like if they developers received about 11,000, I think $11,000 or so
Se
on
logró.
Kickstarter, then
Uh-huh.
the company would pay them another
11,000.
11,000. So they could develop the games, and people went like crazy because it was. I mean, it sounded too good to be truth, and it was. And people started like donating themselves.
I remember a case where there was a suspicious Kickstarter donation where it was like 500,000. I don't remember the exact amount they were donated to the developer, but it turns out that there were only 100 donators. So to get that much of money from donation, it was like suspicious. Um, they ended up not paying them, and it was like a whole disaster for it.
Uh,
So they like implemented that if there were less than 500 donators, they wouldn't pay the developer the same amount
mm.
of money they raised
It
on
was kind of
Kickstarter.
lame. I mean, they tried to make it like more developer friendly, but at the end they end up shooting themselves on the feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Finally, when it was well, I think it wasn't a really good idea for the client, we can say, of the Ouya, because even when they were uh, when the company was sold to Razer, they
Risenberg.
Razer. Okay,
Okay.
Razer. Yeah. Uh, they also failed and had to retire the whole idea from the market.
Yeah. I mean, the concept was good again, but they repeated most of the mistakes, like technical ones. The console was still just not good, and like it didn't get to the standards of a video game console. When the Razer Aha was was released. Also, even though they gave support to the Ouya for a little more of time, they ended up like giving the whole project up. Mostly because I mean they had these people when they thought about the Ouya, they thought of something lame that wasn't worth it. So no one actually bought it. So yeah, that was pretty much what happened.
Yeah, that's the entire context of the Skibidi Ouya. But may we talk about the Nikon then? I mean, next.
I mean,
The
sure, but
the
we're
Nikon
like,
Engage.
okay. So, how would the Ouya avoid it? Like dying.
Um,
by
I would say
setting it
first of
safe.
all that the CEO should have been more informated about what was happening with the project, uh, to avoid the kind of mistakes of in the information. For example, in the interviews.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the concept was good. However, if you're going to make like a console that is pretty much more a phone rather than a console, it would make a lot more of sense to make it portable. Also because I mean, it wasn't supposed to be like that powerful, which fits with a portable console, and it would still be able to be like jailbreaked. Also like rooted when you like can do whatever you want with your Android device. And the main point of the Ouya was being like something everyone could buy, and a portable console would have been like a good idea.
Yeah, so it was a really good idea, but the thing, it wasn't good executed.
Well executed. Also, maybe the price, even though it was like cheap and everyone could buy it, like making it just be sold at $100, it made it a bit difficult for them to, like develop the Ouya with more expensive components and give a little and spend a little bit more of budget on the technical parts of the console, mostly because they had to sell it at $100 and still like be able to make profit, which was
Yeah.
hard if you're going to sell something like that cheap.
But I would say they have the financial issue a bit easier than other companies with their projects because they raised $8.5 million that they could have um, if they worked to raise that money without donation. It could have taken a lot of time. So
But didn't the Ouya's price was $300
No, bro, it was just a
No,
hundred
no, no.
dollars.
for real?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think the premium one that was launched like 2 months later was $300.
Yeah, because I read an
No.
article about it, and it said that its price was 300.
Or maybe like adjusted to the actual price because it was like 2030, 2040, give or take, and maybe the value of the dollar may have changed. I'm just guessing right now.
bros, give me a sec.
ChatGPT,
He's searching.
the value of the
What the Sigma?
so that would be pretty much
Do
it for
I
the Ouya.
answer?
Also, I mean, even that the games were like good. Oh, also, what happened is that the Ouya would offer like free demos for the games, but people wouldn't actually like pay for the games because most of them were just not worth it. So people like just tried the game and then said, no, no way, bro, hell no, I'm not gonna pay for this. So most of the time, even
And
though
it
people
got
like
any
played the free demos, nobody like buy the actual game. 'Cause it wasn't actually worth it.
I am a bit
That's right.
lost.
So thanks for paying attention and see you soon.
Van 10. Todo comienza cuando no hay nada que